But I think once he realized that we were going to be coming out and driving down his driveway all the time to either maintain that footprint of a house, then he decided that he would rather come back in and sign a lease with us for that piece. So we got approval from the state, from FEMA to be able to sign the lease, and that's what we're here for today on that.
That's a zero lease?
Correct. We don't receive it.
Okay. Well, I saw that and that would just confuse me.
Yeah, it's really just for them to maintain the parcel. We have such a patchwork quilt of parcels up there from all the different flood buyouts that we have. And you have to maintain them into perpetuity. And right now, the way the federal laws are, is that the county is never allowed to get rid of that land. And so, you know, could be 100 years from now, where we're sitting in our position is going to be talking about the flood of 2019 and the parcels that they own up there, making sure that they're maintained. Every year we have to send in a report on them. Every 5 years we have to do a more in-depth report on them. And so hopefully at some point in time, the federal government will allow us to make some changes to that and dispose of that real estate for good.
Will this be a yearly deal? A lease or just perpetuity?
It's a 15-year.
15?
How many properties do we have in that aspect? You know,
Not off the top of my head, but it's around 40. 40 different little pieces.
it would be to our advantage to find a way to eliminate all those properties. County responsibility.
Other than the conservation department has a few that are larger parcels.
Okay,
One is utilized, I don't remember what it's called, but I think
Hey, we're
Tiedeman's property.
Tiedeman's property. Was up there.
That's an actual established. But there's
Got a
a
whole
lot,
pond on it, doesn't it?
Mhm.
yeah. Then there's some properties that are. But the other ones I would say, it should be disposing.
Kristen, have you seen these?
Those
Yeah.
Yes.
Pam, one real quick question for you. On the, paragraph 7, it says the lease automatically renews upon expiration. So does that mean you won't have to come back year after 15 years?
I probably won't come back.
You know what? I'm not gonna, that's not gonna bother me either. Okay. It just says that it says that it automatically renews upon expiration from year to year. So if we put it at 15-year, does it automatically renew?
I don't know.
Okay,
Also, the government changes it.
not a big deal. Thanks, Pam. You want a motion for that, Susan? We got,
We're in public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak in favor or against this proposed transaction? How do we know if there's anybody on the phone that wants to?
they could raise their hand.
Does anybody who's participating via Teams this morning want to speak with regard to this public hearing? If so, you can raise your hand and we will let you in. Any?
I'll move to close.
No second.
Motion by Wickman, second by Shay to close the public hearing. Melvin, call the roll, please.
Aaron Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Jorgensen,
Aye.
Shay,
Aye.
Belt,
All right.
Wickman.
So Pam, is it your recommendation that we approve the lease?
Yes.
I'll make that motion for you, Susan.
Okay, so are we moving on to item 2B on the agenda?
Actually,
No,
no, we're still on 2A. At the bottom there.
Is the farm lease something different?
That's part of it. So for the state code, you have to have a public hearing and then,
And then enter the agreement.
then sign the resolution. Yes.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, so Tim, you made that motion.
a good second.
I'll second.
Went out.
Yeah.
And that's for resolution 16, 2024.
Yes.
Okay, I'm totally lost. We've got a motion and a second
Yeah, you second?
to approve disposing of real property by lease pursuant to Iowa Code Section 331.361, parent 2.
And authorize the board to sign resolution 1620-24.
No.
That's the next item.
Yeah, that's B.
See my confusion? I've got
Yeah,
it all
okay.
Hang on one
Yeah.
second.
trying to follow the script.
It's at the bottom of the,
We're approving it.
we went in and out, and then there's a third one to vote.
Who's approving the disposal and then we approve the lease? All right. I'll-
Yeah, yes.
All right,
Who's the Feltons?
They are the people who used to own the property, related to Tom Macklin.
Okay, so it's not Macklin's property then, that he's in the farm.
They were, so Felton owned that particular piece,
Yes,
and then
okay.
around it.
Macklin owns the rest.
Macklin.
Okay. I'm with you.
all right. So we are going back to a roll call vote.
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Bell.
All right.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Shay.
Right,
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Heller, now I will make a motion
There
to sign resolution 16-2024.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Wickman, second by Belt to approve and authorize board chairperson to sign resolution number 16-2024, a resolution to enter into a farm lease with Thomas Macklin for part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of section 9, township 7644. Roll call, please.
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Bell.
Aye.
Wickman.
Aye.
Shay.
aye.
And Jordan.
Aye.
So this is basically a lot of paperwork and no financial benefit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Keeps us from going out there to work on it, to keep it clean.
Now we will move to item 2C. Matt Wyatt, Director, Planning and Development, second consideration of ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Potawatomi County, Iowa by changing the district designation of approximately 35.95 acres from a Class A3 riverfront and ag production to Class I1 limited industrial district, and to adopt ordinance number 2024-01 into law. And this is what we had the public hearing on last week.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen. Is there additional conversation? We do have a promise to look into that intersection. So we need to follow up on that as far as getting it, contacting the CB chamber.
Chris Flipper and I have made email contact, and we're just trying to make a connection on when we can get that transportation committee back together again.
Excellent. Thank you for doing
As
that.
soon as I have that, I will make sure that you attend that meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Good, man.
All right. We need a roll call for this one.
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
And Jordan.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, we have Matt Wyatt again, second consideration of ordinance number 2024-02, an ordinance to amend Potawatomi County, Iowa zoning ordinance, chapter 8.004.095 accessory dwelling unit, and to adopt an ordinance number 2024-02 into law. And this is the one that we had the public hearing on last week as well. Planning and zoning had presented it for approval.
The zoning board of adjustment requested this application for a code change to our accessory dwelling units. The way the code currently reads is the maximum allowable size is a 600 square foot living space. You could go up, you could go down. So you could potentially wind up with a total of 1800 square feet. But when you look at accessory dwelling units and the reasoning on why people want to do accessory dwelling units, it's really because of lack of mobility or, zero entry, those pieces. You don't want a bunch of stairs in it. And if you start putting staircases in it, it does take away from your living square footprint. And it was really a one size fit all lot, version of it when we put it in 2015, into the code. So our new way to look at this is that if you have double the minimum lot size up to 8 acres, then you can have an 800 square foot maximum ADU. If you have 8 acres to 12 acres, then you're at 1,000 square feet for an ADU. If you have 12 acres and above, then you can have a 1,200 square foot ADU. And we really think that that will help meet the needs of what people have been requesting better from the residents than where we're currently at.
And when those residents move out of that, then it's available for rentals, right? It's got to remain on the original piece.
Yeah, so if you build an ADU on your parcel, it's because your parcel already cannot be split. If it can be split, then that's in part of the ADU section requires if a parcel can be split, then it's split, you just build a separate house out there. So yes, when whoever, whether it was the kids or the parents that were living in that house or family members of whatever kind, if they move on to another living situation, then yes, the person could rent out their ADU. It could not be used as a bed and breakfast, but it could be used as a longer term rental on their property.
I see the city of Omaha's, working on an ordinance for having those inside the city.
What's ADU again?
Accessory dwelling
Dwelling
units.
units.
Yes, house, granny flat.
Granny, okay, grandma's house.
Yeah, grandma's house.
Okay, most house.
Alvin's house.
Well,
Grab me in there someday.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Shay, second by Bell, to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 2024-02. Melvin, will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Jorgensen.
Aye.
Ooh, they moved you up to the top.
Or I
Supervisor
should
Bell,
be.
yeah,
Aye.
Shay and Wickman.
All right.
Matt, I got a quick question. So these are stick homes, right? Man, can you move a trailer house on there or make, like, have a concrete pad and move some kind of dwelling other than a permanent house? Can you do that?
you could potentially move a modular or manufactured home onto the property. In Potawatomi County, you do have to set it down onto a permanent foundation. It could be a tiered foundation, kind of
Okay.
what you're talking about, because it has to be converted to real estate. The only way to do that is to set it onto a permanent foundation.
Okay. But it can't be like a recreational trailer house, or I mean, not a trailer house, but a mobile home or something like that. Okay.
Correct. You cannot live in an RV
Yeah.
or camper unless it's.
So I had that come up last year. Somebody had a mobile or whatever, vehicle parked on their property, and then their kids were living in that at that time. And that's not allowed.
Correct. We do run into that from time to time where family member may fall on a hard time. So somebody moves them in an RV, kind of a cousin Eddie situation in your front yard. And we do send out notices of violation or
Okay.
try to help them with other living arrangements.
Only one ADU per property.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Now moving on to number 3, ordinance number 2023-05, an ordinance to amend chapter 8 zoning ordinance by adding wind energy and solar energy systems, case number ZTA-2023-03, and setting date for third consideration. And we have lots of interested parties in the room today. So we have gone through the process of updating our chapter 8 zoning ordinance to update the wind that we currently have, and then to add a solar ordinance. And we've had 2 public hearings, one during the daytime, during our regular meeting time, and one out in the county in the evening time. And what additional information do you want to present to us, Matt?
Today, I just really wanted to make sure we went back over from all of the based on community feedback, based on the board's feedback, we had gone through and we had entered in there the height requirement, which would put them at 412 feet. That's currently what our Mid-American Walnut Wind Farm is at. That was discussed on there. The setbacks are 1,500 feet from any lot line, public right of way, and also 1/2 mile from the dwellings. Our incorporated municipalities, we did the community buffers on there, which is a 3-mile buffer from any of the incorporated cities. Council Bluffs Airport is the same 3-mile buffer around that. Parks and habitat areas, 3-mile buffer on those are added in there. I did go back through and double check the sound after your call this morning, Mr. Workman. We do have the sound leveled to 40 decibels on there. That's under H.
On my copy, it's in my H says 50.
In the packet, the board packet that was published in the agenda on the website for the meeting today, it's got 50 in there. The total ordinance where you adapted it, it says it's 40. But what was published was 50.
Okay, so that's what's in there. Let's figure out where it came from or where it's at.
Do we need
We've
to
been operating
publish that?
We've been operating off of the one copy between us. So that way we know that all of our changes are the same on there.
Do we need to republish it?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe-
It hasn't been published. The ordinance, once you adopt the ordinance summary or the ordinance, then the summary.
40. Okay.
It was published for the purpose of the meeting today.
Okay.
But you're right, it hasn't been adopted yet.
Matt, real quick, the state is looking at a statewide ordinance for wind generation. Is that correct? Is that what?
Correct.
Okay,
It looks like it died in the funnel this year.
it did, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just was wondering.
I mean, I do believe that sooner or later we will see some regulations from the state, and that's why I think it's important that we all communicate with our state representatives and
Okay,
so that they understand where not, where the counties sit, where the residents sit,
right.
and they can make the appropriate decisions at the state level.
Okay. Thank you.
One other change that I think we need to make to the code is on the solar for the release of financial surety on page 53. And here I'm looking at the full ordinance. But I think we need to model it so that it matches for the wind on page 64. And I should have brought this up sooner, I'm sorry, but the way that it's written for solar is financial surety only be released by the development director after inspection. And when we changed it for wind, we made sure that the financial security or surety was released by approval of the board. So it wasn't just one person making that decision, it was it was 6 people making that decision, so.
Susan, are you talking about item 10 on the wind? Where it says the development director shall review the plan and refer to the adjustment board?
No, I'm talking about releasing the financial surety that the project owner has to put up the bond for the decommissioning and removal of the turbines and the solar panels.
I think it's item E on page 53 if you're looking at forward.
Item E on the wind side?
Solar.
So
I was just trying to make the solar provision match the wind provision.
Right.
when Walnut retooled those, is that when they went to the 412?
Yes.
So what was it before that then?
Varied.
Pardon?
It varied, I would say,
Okay,
I don't know, 2. I choose. I don't know for sure, but
So if they retool again, they have to stay at the 412.
Correct.
And that's what we're learning, the 412 doesn't exist anymore. You can't get pieces and parts to build 412.
It's not, it's not economically feasible for that. You know, I mean, it's 20-year-old technology, so.
So the question I would have for the board is, do we want to remove the height restriction? Because the setbacks are 1.1 times the height.
That is with a participating property owner.
I would say when they did the retooling of the Mini-Am and they went to higher, they did have to come in and get some variances because they are closer to public right of ways.
And that's what we want to prevent in the future.
Correct. And I know a lot of industry, a lot of times different industries will come in and tell you that, I mean, 412 is a cap. It doesn't mean that they couldn't go and find parts for 400, but it doesn't mean they can't go and find parts for 395. And it's just, that would be the max of it. It's that piece.
What would be conducive to this time? 450?
600 is what I've been hearing.
600?
I would certainly like to see a cap, period, I don't want to see skyscrapers out there in our county. That's me.
I'm perfectly fine leaving it where it is. And if we need to do a review, we'll do a review.
Yeah, I agree.
On an individual basis?
No. We,
That's pretty tall.
The majority of the people in the county just, they're okay with the 412, the ones that we've got currently.
I mean, as long as the sound ordinance in the, or the decibel sound is 40 in the final, I'm okay with it. Do you, what kind of a day are you looking at, Pam, for a third consideration?
I believe. Tuesday,
Do with the
20.
27?
What time, Pam? I mean, we can discuss it, we can beat it around, we've spent a lot of time on this. It's something that, our residents ask us to do. I think we
Mhm.
fulfilled that, and with that, Ms. Miller, I will make a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance 2023-05 and amend chapter 8 zoning ordinance by adding wind energy and solar systems, case CTA 02303, and set date for third consideration for the 27th of February at 10 o'clock.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Wickman, second by Shea, to approve the second consideration of the ordinance number 2023-05. All those in favor?
Wait,
Do you need a roll?
Is that your recommendation, Matt?
Yes.
Is that your recommendation, Pam? Okay, roll call, Susan.
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Shea,
Aye.
Jorgensen,
Aye.
Wickman.
Aye.
And Bell.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Put a lot of work into this. All right, next up, we have Oscar Duran, Executive Director, Municipal Housing Agency of Council Bluffs, pilot discussion and expanded housing opportunities. And Paula Hazelwood sent her regrets this morning. She was unable to attend. So, Oscar, you are the star of the show.
Morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Oscar Duran from the Municipal Housing Agency. I'm gonna get this little presentation going. Thank you so much. And while he's setting that up, I've had the privilege of serving in this capacity for close to 4 years now. Learned a lot. My family and everybody's here from Council Bluffs though, so my mom just lives a few blocks away and everything. But I'm happy to share with you, and this time that I've been here, I've specialized in low-income nonprofit housing for the last 15 years of my career. And so one of the big things I wanted to come here was to kind of help my community here as well. And so we've been here for 4 years, working through the PHA, which is a housing authority. Essentially, there's over 3,300 of these in the country. And ours was, it's kind of fun. I love history. The history of it starts back as early as like 1945, when the community came together to say, hey, we have this idea. We want to participate in these federal programs. So they created our entity. Able to get on there real quick?
Yeah, and I just have one port, so download the PowerPoint first and then put your thing in.
Well, so in that time I've been here, so we at our agency, and we'll see in the slides, we have 2 core programs. And HUD has 2 divisions really, because a lot of folks, they hear the HUD word and they kind of throw it in there. We operate under what's called PIH, Public and Indian Housing. And so we are, as my parents would say, they'd say like the redheaded stepchildren of municipal work, right? We're not county, city, state employees. We're not really nonprofits, but we're not for-profit entities as well. We are established by community charters, and then from there, we work with these federal and steward these federal contracts. So ours is the Municipal Housing Agency of Council Bluffs. This is our motto here. We just really wholeheartedly believe everyone deserves a place for home. At our agency, we're really serving our community, some of our communities most vulnerable. A lot of families, households with fixed incomes, disabilities, elderly, disabled, you name the gambit. And so we're really that first line of defense for communities fight against homelessness. We're that opportunity. And so one of our main programs and how we serve that though is through our public housing program. And here in Council Bluffs, we have 2 public housing communities. One is Regal Towers, just right next door, 8 stories. We have 210 household families that live there. And then we also have Dudley Court at the other end of town over on 24th. And with that one, we serve roughly 85 households. I'm proud to share though that since we've been here, our housing program is 100%, public housing is 100% occupied. And that's a really big thing. And so, and then our second program is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. This used to be called Section 8. They changed it a few years ago because they've expanded the program to include a lot of other things. Our community, we've actually, since I've been here, we've been able to apply competitively for additional vouchers, which we hadn't done in a long time. We're totally right now, we're at 772 families that we help with residential assistance. And now this is just in Council Bluffs, not in the rest of the county. This is just specifically here. And then a lot of folks like this data point. We're currently partnering with 178 landlords, which just a few months ago, it was less than 155. And I'll kind of talk about some of the work we're doing to kind of move that in the right direction. This is just something I like to share with partners. And I apologize if some of y'all already may know this, but I know there's folks online and folks in the community that might like to know some of this stuff, because I always say our PHA is really our community's public housing agency. So this is, I always feel like it should be more data in front of everyone. The first piece is going to be our public housing program. Like I mentioned before, 28% of our families that we served last year were through this program. And like I said, it's 285 units total, 295. We're 100% occupied. And right now we have about 102 families who completed a full application that are on our waiting list, waiting for additional housing assistance. Now, this is just in public housing. And additional to those 102, we have about 55 families who are working with us to complete their applications. Now, here in Council Bluffs, we give some preferences to folks who are with disabilities, who live and or work in Council Bluffs. So just because somebody applied doesn't mean they're at the bottom of that number. And I always like to remove that misnomer. We're here really trying to house folks with the families in most need as quickly as possible. Now, on our PHCV program, the Housing Choice Voucher, this is the core traditional program. This is where we serve about 63% of our current families. So right now it's about 676 to 711. Now this is the area where I have a lot more concern. And I'll kind of talk about why really quick. We talked about that 100 and some wait lists on the public housing. On our Housing Choice Voucher Program, our currently wait list right now is 1,300 families. That is 1,300 families in Council Bluffs that are in need of housing assistance that have come to us. Now, my small team, we can't even get to those. So we wait till their number comes up on the waiting list before we can outreach to them. And so there's a number there we call success rate because we don't know if they're really going to qualify by the time we get to their number. So of those families, we probably only get, by the time they qualify, it's less than about 40% that actually get through to actually get assistance. And that's for a variety of reasons. Now, of those right now, to kind of give you an idea, we have about 120 families, households that turn over from year to year. That's folks making additional income, moving, no longer qualifying the program, folks moving out of the community and a different community absorbs them. We call this portability. And then, of course, we have these additional vouchers, which are pretty near and dear to my heart. They're called these special purpose vouchers. And these are where HUD has allowed for additional opportunities for communities to be kind of competitive and say, hey, do you have a focused community that you want to continue to serve? Well, in Council Bluffs, I'm happy to share that one of our focus communities is our veterans. So we have 20 veteran households that we've been additional awarded in addition to these 711. So we have 20 veteran households that we're serving currently right now. And then we also have our mainstream program, which this one is a really great one. It's for households with a disability that are under the age of 62. And this becomes extremely pertinent because I always like to tell, and I've had this happen 3 times in my career here, most of the LIHTC developments, which is really our country's largest scalable tool to combat this low-income housing challenges, and the majority of these projects are done for the performance for the sake of doing elderly housing. So when you have these 504 accessible units, the majority, because of the subsidy layering, they're for communities 62 and older. So what happens to our households if a single parent has a child in a wheelchair? There are very few and needs housing assistance, few to no properties available to them. So a program like this becomes really essential. And this is specifically to help those families. It's not a different waiting list, but they get additional preferences to get in there. And right now we're pretty much maxed out. We're on what HUD calls a hot list. It sounds bad, but it means that we're helping set our families at such a high volume that they're watching our money. Because as I'll talk to you later, we are only 100% federally funded, except for some competitive grants we apply for. Now, the additional Main Street special purpose voucher program we have is for Foster Youth Initiative. It might not seem like a lot, but with 4, we're actually leading the state and Family Serve, and that's because of a regular partnership we have with our local DHS, Children's Square, and we really are watching the pipeline for these young kiddos who are aging out of foster care and trying to connect them to housing assistance. Now it's temporary, it's 3 years at sunsets. This one's probably one of the more challenging ones to manage because, as you can imagine, a lot of our youth that are coming for these programs are having some additional support they need. And so we're trying to find other agencies to help them with those. This really gives you kind of the gambit of how we serve just in 2023. Now that need is big, right? I'm going to go back to this. We're talking about, and at the height of last year, we were at 2,300 families just on the Housing Choice Voucher family. What do we do as a community to do that? And I'm an ethnographic researcher by trade and by education. And so I started doing an ethnography and collecting data of other housing agencies around us and in other areas. And so I found a few core programs that we don't operate here in Council Bluffs that would be extremely viable. So what you see here is this is our Expanding Housing Opportunities Initiative, we call it. Basically, we have 3 core activities that we're really trying to bring to Council Bluffs so that we can do our part. Remember, I said that we're not a nonprofit, we're not a for-profit. We are a special type of entity that can do things that other groups can't. I'm a builder by trade originally. I like working with my hands, so I just think of toolboxes. And I think of this toolbox, and we got a real good saw and we got a real good hammer, but we are this different tool that we haven't started to use yet properly. And I think as we sophisticate our programs, the 3 that really come to mind are first is the home ownership program. When we talk about home ownership, I'm really talking about how do we serve families from 80% of area median income down lower. We have a great partner like Habitat for Humanity that focuses with 60 to 80 communities, right? But they have to go through that specific Habitat program. Blake's a really good friend of mine, and so is 712. And we're talking about ways that we can pair this home ownership program with them because we have a lot of other families. With this program, essentially that housing choice voucher program that's a rental assistance, we can voluntarily turn it into home ownership assistance and really help a family bridge out of poverty. That's a fantastic thing. And it's a volunteer program, and less than 25% of housing authorities in our country participate in it. Why? Well, because it takes more resources, time to build new things. And honestly, remember that money that we have, it becomes a barrier, right? HUD only gives you very limited funds and they pay you performance-wise to operate the program and start the family assistance. The other program that we have, it's not so much a program, it's an activity. It's called the Project-Based Vouchers Program. Now, I mentioned LIHTC before. These LIHTC applications are extremely competitive. And if y'all haven't heard, Pot County, we're not doing the best in terms of our developers getting through. And me, the city, and other folks in the county and nonprofits are advocating with the partners in Miss Durham, down at IFA and IDA to say, hey, what can we do to get our project scoring higher? Because we have this dire housing need here in the community. Well, in fact, if we had a PBV program established, we can actually partner with some of these existing applications and they can get 1 to 2 additional points, which would mean a light year difference for our communities. You've got to get those. So again, it's this kind of a bureaucratic piece that's in the way. But again, there's some pieces that we have to build in our agency to be able to properly abide by these rules and for HUD to kind of give us their blessing. The third activity is going to be building for development. A lot of, especially locally, and almost all of our housing authorities in our size are doing these types of activities. HUD separates housing authorities into 3 categories: small, medium, and large. We're actually in the large. So believe it or not, they group us with like New York, Chicago. So I always say we're at the bottom contending way to that area. I really feel we're much more of a large middle. And that's really because of our portfolio. I mentioned Regal Towers. If y'all didn't know, Regal Towers is the largest public housing community in the state of Iowa. And of the top 10 largest housing agencies, municipal housing is one of the few that's standing alone and still doing these pieces and activities on its own. And we've been doing a great job. I'm really blessed to work with a really great team. So this is our Housing Opportunities Initiative. And as we've been talking to the foundation, other partners about it, we're saying, how do we start to build this infrastructure? And why? A lot of the questions are why. And so I talked about the other additional programs, right? These are some data points that I thought would be really sit in well. We currently have public housing and HCD. That's it. That's what we've had since 1974. That's all we've really changed. The only additional 60-some vouchers we've gotten are because we've competitively applied in the last 4 years to get them. And we have a lot of families, and me and my team are committed to helping as many as possible. So looking at some of the statistics, this is outside of those 2 programs. You can kind of get a glimmer of what types of the types of volume that other housing authorities are doing in their communities outside of these 2 programs. And it's some of those other activities I spoke of. Just in project-based vouchers, 34% of all project-based vouchers that have been completed so far are by housing authorities. They actually own or manage them. That's a huge number. That's over 43,000 additional housing units to date, just in that single program. Now, these are the core big development programs that I got on here. And I got this, I work with the Public Housing Research Association. They're a great nonprofit. So this is their data, and we got permission to use it, but it's fantastic because it really tells the story of what communities are also doing in addition to these federal programs to really serve more populations. So if you can look right now, that 384,000 number, that's at 9% now. That's how many total additional housing units outside of these 2 programs exist. Only 10 years ago, that number was 150,000. So in 10 years, we've seen this wave of communities waking up and saying, hey, this tool, this housing authorities can do more. What can we do more to serve more? And you can see that statistically in the math. This will actually show back on the LIHTC program, the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Back in 1998, this is about 10 years after its conception, it was less than 2% of housing authorities who were partnering with LIHTC programs. You can see what that looks like today. It's about 14%. And what I've seen from latest research, it's right around 16% of all projects going through right now are partnering with the housing agency. Now, again, how are we going to continue to serve more of our community with housing? These are the tools that our partners and our counterparts are using locally. And so as we start to talk about ways that we can do these activities and build the infrastructure for them, obviously dollars are limited. And because I mentioned, you'll see on this third report, PHA, our housing authority is only funded by the feds. We don't receive any monies from the state, from the county, from the city. We do get some housing trust funds when we competitively apply, but we always like to take a break in between years because we know those funds are limited. And a lot of those folks who are running these other housing agencies are dear friends of mine, and they have fantastic missions as well. So the big thing we have is we have what's called the cooperation agreement. When our cities and our municipalities create us, they establish one of these COPs. And so ours, unfortunately, the one I can find closest to file is from March 5th, 1969 with the county. That doesn't mean there's not a new one, but we can't seem to find any record of one. And it really talks about what the county is going to do to help us become this entity. And you know what our goal back then was? To build 350 units of housing. We never even hit our goal. We got to 295, and it's a little weird tidbit of the story, but I like to point out. Now, we do have an updated one from like 1996 with the city, but it's really just an amendment to talks about an additional 50 housing units, which I haven't seen, so I have some more inquiries, but we don't have anything different in the language. So this is step one, I think. I think it's prevalent to say, hey, what does a new cooperation agreement look like us for our community? What is it we want to see the housing authority be able to help us in our community do in the coming years? So we have this other program, and this isn't ours, this is a national piece. Because housing authorities are types of municipalities, we don't have to pay property taxes. So us, like other nonprofits, we have a program called the Payment in Lieu of Taxes Pilot Program. And so not gonna cut anything out, we are behind on paying that piece. And this is through a fluke of when transitions happen, and we apologize for. Somewhere back in the previous board administration, previous director, there was a discussion amongst the city, the county, and the housing agency regarding fees and assessments. In that time, they paused these payments, and that conversation carried over to when I took over the payment processes. So when we got all that arranged with these inspection fees, what didn't get vocalized was that there's this other piece of it with these pilot. I only learned about these past two pilot pieces last year. Immediately started working with our commissioners, our auditors, and saying, hey, what's going on? And obviously it starts begging the question as well, there might have been a transition in the county or the city, whoever's watching this on the other end, because these are not tax funds, these are additional funds, and I don't know how they're earmarked. But this will get you, the last I could find, the last recorded payment was for the 2019 year. So what you're gonna see here are the breakdowns of the 3 years with a projection for 2023. It's a total of about $316,147.42, which our agency has set aside, and we fully intend to abide by the rules because, like I said, HUD wants you to be a great steward of the program. And the better we follow those program rules, the more opportunities they give us to serve our community better, more programs that we participate. So we're fighting to be one of the best. Actually, last year, our Section 8 program, we got deemed a high performer. HUD came in because of the last administration had some challenges. And so they did a full inspection of our whole portfolio. And honestly, we were a little nervous because we're all self-taught, but we're a young team, but we passed with flying colors. We actually just took our assessment for this year again, and we are again a high performer. And that's not a point to brag. It's a way to vocalize my team's commitment to this agenda. We are all very passionate about our community. So when you look at that number, and you fight it in line with, hey, the housing authority, and by the way, these funds are, the way the program works, it's collected off of our rents from public housing only. So those 295 units, because I always like to say this, a lot of folks say that folks live on public housing don't pay rent. That is a very big falsehood. In fact, that pilot grows the more rent they paid. Currently, we receive about just shy of 1.1 million in rents every year to operate. And I'm going to tell you, these beasts though are no easy thing to manage. I've learned a lot trying to manage a couple 8-story buildings. So the last piece is, again, the community need. 2,200 families in Council Bluffs. We have, I'm a neighborhood revitalization person, is my big passion. And I don't know if you know, but we have in Council Bluffs close to 24% of the families who are living at or below the poverty line. So when we start talking about what we're doing and we talk about workforce housing and low-income housing, we're always usually talking about households from 60 AMI and up. 60 AMI to 120. What about the 60 to 0? There's not a lot of partners that are really working with that. We are that first line of defense. And so we are that entity. So as we start to look at what we could do with that pilot, and again, we're going to pay it. And here are the 4 options that we have as a community. And as I've talked to other housing authorities, I found out that they're doing pretty creative things with their pilot. The first is going to be, obviously, there's no change. We'll go ahead and write those checks. We'll break it in 4 separate checks. We'll send it over, drop it off to the county. You'll get the pilot. I don't know how y'all allocate those funds. We'll take it out. That's less funds we'll have to serve families. Y'all will have those more funds to do much needed things in the county, I'm sure. Nothing changes. Status quo is there. We're going to still have to find ways that we can find defederalized funds. And that's been very tough. I've been working on it for 4 years here. That's why we haven't done any broken ground of new properties. Now, the next fee is pilots waived. I found a lot of housing authorities doing this. They work with partners and boards of supervisors, just like you find folks, and they say, hey, let's waive this pilot. Well, I found out though, because I'm a math nerd, I said, well, let me check the math on this. HUD actually does a reverse calculation and takes that money out of your next year's subsidy. So guess what? When we waive that, nobody gets the money. They actually reduce it in the next year. So I don't think I'd rather keep it where we're at than go to something like that, honestly. The third is they do, and they don't call it this, I'm calling it a pilot pass-through. A lot of these PHAs have nonprofit subsidiaries that they started. We have just started our own as well last year. It's one of the first things we started moving. It's called the Iowa Community Family Housing Alliance. We have officially submitted for our 501c3. Our full intent is how are we going to grow our additional services with our families' need. Those 2,200 families I'm talking about, how do we help them more? That's what this nonprofit's going to be focused on. But another piece with that is, so when these entities have them, boards of supervisors will then take the pilot and then they give the money to the nonprofit so that they continue to do these different activities. That is one way. Now, Paula Hazelwood, who sends her regards, she's so apologetic. In fact, we thank you for your patience moving this meeting around so that we could both be here. Paula just texted me this morning. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, we're going for it, no matter what. She sends her regards, but she talks to me a lot about the state of the county and how much great things of support we do. And so I'm not a kind that's out here with our hand out. I believe in some kind of stronger partnership, if this is even a viable option to you all, where we do a partnership, or maybe it's a 70-30 split. And so what this would look like, and just for rough math, I did it in 2 ways. On the left, you could see the total sum of the 316,000. On the right, it would give you an idea of what that could look like year to year. Now, knowing that that's based on how well our public housing programs are performing. Those are our 4 big options. I really wanted this to be an opportunity because as I've been talking to the foundations, other folks about how they're going to support this initiative, I haven't reached out to the county specifically because I know the county's starting to also try to backtrack some funds. And so I couldn't in good graces do that. This is the first way that I found. I'm like, hey, here's a path I think we could find a great partnership with the county forward. And so just doing my role here, I wanted to bring this up to you before we wrote those checks and lay the seed for, is there something we can do? Because I see all those great news articles of the housing authorities working with the cities and the counties, building these fantastic housing. I want to see one for Western Iowa. I want to see us in the news too. And more importantly, those 2,200 families, God, if we can help 50 of them next year, if we can help 100 of them in 2 years, we're the missing tool in the toolbox that can do that right now. So thank you. I'm out of breath, little dry mouth.
Oscar, did we give you money last year?
No, sir.
No.
I did come and present when everybody was getting funds, and I think y'all asked her, like, hey, are you gonna ask for that? And I said, not yet. I don't know what to ask for. And it's more because I wanted to learn the need even better. I'm a very strategic person and I'm in here for the long haul. So
2,200 families.
2,200, it was 2,380 2 years ago. Here's another little thing. And the progressive things we're trying to do, waiting list goes closed. When I showed up 4 years ago, our waiting list was already closed. And I was like, hey, so when was it open? They're like, it was like 2 years ago. I was like, oh man, so how long was it open? For 6 hours. Our waiting list for access these programs was closed for 3 years and only open for a 6-hour window. I mean, like what happens to the homeless mom that comes from out of town that needs this program? So one of the things is we look through the regulations and what we do is we do a biannual purge, meaning every 6 months, and this is a customer service challenge for sure. We have to send a letter to everybody who applied. So like Mr. Jorgen said, if you had applied to the program, even yesterday, you'd have to resubmit all your information tomorrow to still be on there. It is an inconvenience, but what that's doing with HUD is they can't get me on the federal regulation that we have to close our list. And so that's been one of the most tremendous things, and all our partners are very proud of it. And we're one of the few communities that regularly has an open waiting list. And so again, I'm just trying to find ways that we can keep helping our brothers and sisters in town.
You said something about a homeless mother coming from out of town.
Yes,
Okay, from out of town.
yes.
Where are there homeless moving into the community and applying your program? I mean, do they shop themselves?
There's talks of that. There's a lot of fears around portability. In fact, there's a law on the Iowa floor, and I don't think HUD would allow it, where we could remove portability from the Section 8 voucher. It doesn't happen as much with us. We have more families moving out with the assistance than are moving in. But that doesn't mean, honestly, the math works out fine, because when somebody's coming in from a different housing agency, the assistance doesn't come from us, it comes from them. We only get a little bump to help administer the program. Now we have the opportunity to absorb them to get our numbers, but everybody is in a state right now all across the country of how to utilize their Section 8 program, HCV. Ours was 99% full. I said we're 96 now, 2 years ago. With everything that's happened in the last few years of housing and the skyrocketing of rents, it has become increasingly difficult for our families to have housing units. One of the things that we've done through our housing initiative with our nonprofit is we created a new role. Again, we're having to fund it solely at the housing agency. But it's, his name's Dervit Murdoch. We're very happy. He's out there recruiting landlords. I mean, door to door. And our families who get awarded the vouchers, he's holding their hands as much as he can, finding out why they can't get housing assistance, if they need rides. We're just trying to make that thing, fighting it better. But a lot of them, to my knowledge, aren't really coming from homeless communities. That's just one that really happened. I met her at the Walmart down the street over at the other end, close to the jail. And she had 3 kids in there. She was pregnant. It was like a dang story. And I was happy to take her application. It's not something I usually do, but I answered that phone that day. And for me, it was just an ethnographic note. I'm like, literally, we have a mother here who's wants to invest. She said her family was from here. She might be just returning home, like, but what is there? And that's more to answer your question.
Yeah, we have, a number of organizations that are working to provide, housing for low, moderate income people. You mentioned Blake Johnson.
Mhm.
With, Habitat 712. He has a project going off of First Avenue. We also have the Potawatomi County Housing Trust that works in that arena. And we also have NeighborWorks. Why wouldn't the county benefit more by creating low to moderate housing that people can purchase?
Absolutely. And that's why, to me, it's not an either or. That's why the 3 programs we've selected it's a continuum, a full circle of a holistic strategy. So the homeownership program is the way we can do that. And so to correct myself too, I apologize if I misquoted. There is not a lot of families serving with homeownership opportunities in that low to moderate income. So Blake is one of them, 60 to 80 AMI. And I know because I worked at Habitat for Humanity a long time. But that program has specific rules, also very, very tight, and they can only scale so much. Our program is more of a subsidy that can work with partners like Blake 712 to assist them to drive more progress further forward. That's one. On the rental side, there are a lot of rental assistance programs. Ours is more unique in the sense that we have the assistance directly from HUD. There's not like a middle person going through, so we're not continually like looking for as many units, because part of the HCD program is a trifold approach. It's working directly with the family, the community, and then also the landlords directly. So we have our own relationships directly with the landlords in a portfolio.
The option that you mentioned, that if we waive them, the feds cut what they give you, that is not an option for us.
No, I said that too. I was like,
Okay.
I'd rather just pay it, and that's ridiculous. Absolutely.
I mean, I know this is discussion only, but I think it's important that we have a conversation with those other organizations as well, and try to do everything we can to make those dollars work to their utmost capacity.
Mhm.
And, once I guess you're behind 300,000, once that's taken care of, we can estimate 80,000 a year.
Depending on how rents are doing, and how HUD, we have a very hard thing happening next year. HUD has passed down, we've been looped in with 13 other communities, where they're gonna move us to the small payment standards for rural areas. We've contested it, what that's gonna do is it's gonna reduce all of our households, those 1,100 by about $100 a month of what they can afford. I'm a little nervous about what that's gonna look like, but we'll just pray about it and see. But that's gonna be one, so those numbers could go down. It's dependent on how much rent we collect from Regal and Dudley Court.
I don't have any issues at all with the pilot program and taking those funds to find a way to provide housing for those that need it. But I think that it needs to be, in my opinion, this is discussion only, it needs to be for a project or for a housing project or something similar to what Blake Johnson is doing, that we can touch as many people as we can.
Truly. And that's where, if I could challenge, I think ours is gonna be the biggest strategy to get the biggest impact. And specifically, I'd be happy to, we should have a meeting, but I talk to those partners regularly. And so that's why we put together the Expanding Housing Opportunities Initiative. Our public housing program, for example, we chartered it in 1945. We came together. We didn't build the public housing until 1969. It took us over 20 years to build the infrastructure to activate that program. Section 8 was the same. It took us about 7 years to activate it. So what you saw in that weird little bullets of charts, those were all the little boring things that we have to do to be able to operate and bring these 3 programs to the community that will help all the partners that you're talking about. It'll give us, our community, that other tool to work with these partners and get more units on the board. Especially like the LIHTC, like those partner developers are already there. If they could partner with us with that program, they're gonna get more points. We would have gotten, I think, I'm trying to, don't quote me on this, but it would have been about 64 units this last year. You know, and so again, these are things we're missing the window on that our partners locally are doing.
Maybe the next time you have a discussion with those partners, you can invite a member of the board.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to be honest with you, I am beginning my 8th year on the board. I knew nothing of this. Scott, did you?
No, what about the tower?
In
The
the
money?
pilot, yeah.
I didn't know that they were, obligated to give us money. I thought, we had always, allowed them not to pay property taxes. And I don't know if that's part of the formula. But of the people that are presently at Brigham Towers and Dudley Court, are their rents based on their income?
Yes, sir.
And is most of their income from the federal government?
No, not all. We have quite a few working families. What it is they have to pay at least 30%. And then if they don't have any income, they can still qualify, but the minimum rent is $50 a month. Which a lot of agencies have moved up, but we see too much need to remove that. And we keep it at that number.
30%, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, since the,
Cause I've
Wait.
never seen an agreement.
waiving those fees is not an option. So let's work together to find a way to spend that money the best way we can. And I think that's, include a board member, so we can have some kind of an idea.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate your commitment, and thanks for coming.
No, thank you, sir. And I'll leave some cards if y'all have any additional questions as well.
Okay. How many staff members do you have?
We currently have the ability to have 23. We're down to 19 right now.
And we can keep your PowerPoint so I
Oh,
can
of course.
study it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Oscar, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Next up, we have Dana Kim, CEO, Potawatomi Arts, Culture, and Entertainment, a presentation update to the board on pace and programming for the county.
Are you able to pull? Thank you, everybody, for having me back to give a quick update. I was here last year and we were talking about, I'm gonna move over just things. The significant growth of PACE in the Hoff Center, and this year we even broke even more records. So I'm super excited to talk about the growth and where we're headed. Again, I'm the CEO of PACE. We run the Hoff Family Arts and Culture Center. Most of you have come to visit and come see me there. We continue to get busier and busier. And our mission is to, and again, we slightly changed our mission last year just to encompass all the things we end up doing for the community. So we have a mission to enrich, inspire, and energize the community through supporting arts, culture, and connections. Because what we're finding is that the Hoff Center is becoming almost a community center for not only for council, but for also the county. So our vision is to cultivate a stronger community where art and culture thrive. And again, as a reminder, go to the next slide. We're home to American Midwest Ballet, Kitchen Council, Chandler Community Theater, Kanesville Symphony Orchestra, and PACE. Together, we increase access to the arts. We target new audiences and share costs, helping us all to better realize our missions. Previously, prior to the opening of the Hoff Center, again, this was part of a big visioning for the community. There was over 20 community assessments and interviews done with arts and culture nonprofits, as well as 2 large visioning sessions with the community to understand what they wanted out of this arts and culture center. And really, this is what the vision was, is most of these folks didn't have home to call home, and they were struggling because they were weak, they didn't have the infrastructure, and they needed support. So not only does PACE provide our own programming, we also provide support to these organizations. And in addition, when we moved into the building, Chanticleer Community Theater, as well as Gainesville Symphony Orchestra, were merged into PACE. So we are also now responsible for those 2 organizations. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So PACE ourselves, we're responsible for a lot of programming for the community. We impact over 5,000 students a year, 40,000 patrons. Those are people that actually come to our programming. And then we have over 90,000 visitors through the doors of the Hoff Center. So like I said, PACE oversees and manages the building. We oversee ticketing and calendar management for the performers in the building. And we also manage and operate the building, which is a beast in itself. And then we also provide aspects of customer service for our partners. Like I said, Chanticleer Community Theater is managed by PACE. We host 5 productions a year with over 34 performances. Gainesville Symphony Orchestra is also managed by PACE, and they perform 3 concerts annually at least. And they've actually seen the most growth by coming under the PACE umbrella and having a place to call home. We also provide educational programs. So we have over 150 classes a year for the community. That's everything from youth, adults, family classes. We have painting, pottery, photography, culinary classes. We have a wonderful PACE speaker series. Along with that, we have our Hoff 4th Fridays, which have turned out to be really a draw for our community and a place for us to gather. So it celebrates all the wonderful things in the building. So we work with the Kitchen Council entrepreneurs to do food pop-ups to give those folks an opportunity to market and grow their business. We feature local live musicians. We have arts opportunities like painting classes and pottery classes. We also do our PACE speaker series. So those Fridays usually gather anywhere from, I think the lowest last year was 280. The highest was over 800 people came to a Hoff 4th Friday. Gallery exhibitions, obviously we have a beautiful gallery on the 4th floor. We have our Grant Wood permanent mural pieces, as well as this last year we brought in the large painting that's owned by Council Bluffs, the city of Council Bluffs, the early days of Kingsville. So not only is it an important part of our history, it's obviously a significant piece of art because it was painted by Grant Wood right here in town. And that piece is actually valued over $2 million. So we're super excited to have such an important part of our history as well as a valuable piece of art here in Council Bluffs. We also have artist studios. We have 5 artist studios that are subsidized. We help them, obviously market and promote their business, but we encourage them to interact and engage with the community as well as help us teach classes. And then, of course, we support community programs. We have a lot of things, a lot of outreach in the community. Our most popular program probably being our Music in the Park series during the summer at Bayless Park, as well as we support our community partners to help to execute events like Celebrate Ceres, Winterfest, and other community activities. Next slide. Some of these things I'm calling out are part of our vision, our visioning plan, and some of our pillars of what we want to focus on. We want to focus on people. We want to make sure we have an active and engaged board, as well as we have an engaged team. A big part of that is our ambassadors or our volunteers, as well as we have a lot of creative volunteers as well. So during 2023, we had over 3,000 ambassador volunteer hours and almost over 17,000 creative volunteer hours as well. So people are coming, they're supporting us, and they're helping create wonderful programming in the building. We estimate the volunteer value of over 600,000. We have also what we call, so we have full-time employees. We have 8 full-time employees. We have 23 part-time employees, but we also engage and pay for creative contractors. And so those are the directors, the musicians, the different people that help us put on the programming. So we're helping support artists in their careers by hiring them. We also have 60 plus artists on consignment. So that means, again, we're trying to create a platform for artists in our community to be able to sell their wares. And so we have over 60 different artists on display in the building at any given point in time. We were also designated as a cultural leadership partner for the state of Iowa, so we're proud of that designation. And again, we have a very active and engaged board. So with over 7 board meetings last year and over 29 committee meetings. Go to the next slide, please. And of course, this is our programming goal. We had, we've been growing, and then I'll show you on the next slide how much we've been growing. We had set a goal for ourselves of 30,000 people impacted by programming this year. We definitely broke that goal with over 47,000 people participating in our programming, which is wonderful, substantial growth. Our biggest program was Christmas Story, the musical. We had over 2,000 people attend that. As you can see, we have tons of programs that we put on throughout the year, everything from programs, classes, camps, teen classes, family classes, children's theater, theater shows. And again, we set goals for ourselves on all of those. And we've done well to surpass those goals. I would call out children's classes. We set a goal of 80 classes this last year. We actually put on 150. And so kids are one of those programs that we continue to try to grow in for our community. Our gallery continues to grow. We had set a goal for 7,500 visitors. This last year, we had 8,600 through the door, and Chanticleer attendance continues to grow post-pandemic. So we're happy to see that number of over 6,000, almost 7,000 people through the door for Chanticleer. Go ahead and go to the next. And again, at Place, we want to be the place for people to attend. Again, we had set a goal of 60,000 people through the doors this year. And why that's a significant number is when we originally were doing the visioning and conversations about the building, we estimated we'd have about 50,000 people through the door annually using the building. This last year, we had over 100,000 people through the door. Our demographics as far as visitors to the building continues to grow and change. Again, the primary audience is Potawatomi County. So those are our main visitors to the building. About 62% of that 65% really is Potawatomi County for the state of Iowa visitors. What continues to grow is Nebraska, though. 32% of our visitors are from Nebraska, so people are crossing the river to come see and participate in programming at the Hoff Center, which is wonderful. We like their tax dollars. We like them spending money and visiting Council Bluffs. And again, you can see sort of our year-over-year growth. In 2022, we anticipated that we would have 30,000 visitors. And again, that was post-pandemic based on the previous numbers. Last year, we had 56,000 people through the door. This year, we had over 100,000. So growth is substantial as far as people coming to see us and visit us and participate in programming. So that's a 78% growth. Same thing with programming. Last year, we had about 29,000 people participate in programming. This year, it was 47,000. So 50% growth. Wonderful. People are showing up. We built it. They're coming. We're through the pandemic. Hallelujah. Go ahead and go into the next slide. So we also want to show our economic impact, and we've been participating in some surveys with the state of Iowa and the Americans for the Art. We estimate PACE and our audience spending about $3 million. So that's dollars we're having people spend on activities here through the Hoff Center. That equates to about $120,000 in local government revenue and $167,000 in state government revenue. And again, part of that also is the ability for us to employ people and support our creative contractors. On average, Iowa visitors to arts and cultural events spend an additional $31 on items like dining, shopping, lodging, transportation. So in addition to the ticket price they're spending with PACE at the building. Okay, going to the next slide. Of course, we always want to do our impact survey. This year we had about 180, almost 190 people participate. Again, wonderful results. We want to see people that they see it as a place for families to live, work, and play, makes our community a better place. And go ahead and go to the next slide. We had a ton of positive comments. I just pulled out the 34 positive comments, which is great to have this many positive comments. And both of the ones that I loved. Number 9, love the entire PACE experience. 16, we think PACE is great for Council Bluffs. 17, I'm grateful that there's such a wonderful place to experience the best of Council Bluffs. So lots of wonderful positive comments. The other thing that's important to us too is that even though we have this wonderful building, we're also supporting the county museums. So I'll go to the next slide for me. So this last year was the first time that we did a sort of a joint exhibit with the county museums. The goal of that is that it gives us an opportunity to provide them guidance on collection management and conservation and give them education. So we actually go out, look at their collections. We've given some guidance on actually how to build their own archival spaces in their own facilities. We do provide our archival storage at the building as well for their collections. If they don't feel like there's a safe place for them to store their treasures, we have a space for them as well. They're part of our PACE website. And then again, like I said, we had our first joint exhibition this last year called Your Home, A History of Potawatomi County. And I think several of you made it out to that exhibit. And it was wonderful. It was a beautiful exhibit. It's amazing some of the treasures that we have in those county museums. But ultimately, again, it gave us an opportunity to educate and as well as give an opportunity for us to showcase the wonderful county museums. We had almost 2,000 visitors to that exhibit. It ran from March to May. Those are all the museums that participated in the exhibit. We are going to do it again. The other great thing about the exhibit is we create these wonderful graphics and we create these wonderful stories around the pieces that they share with us. And then those pieces then go back to the museums with it. So now they have additional tools to exhibit and show in their museum. So we're helping build up their own collection. So go ahead and go to the next slide. And as you can see some of the beautiful pictures of the things we help them exhibit and showcase during that exhibit. So again, we're going to be doing that again this fall, again, helping them build up some graphics and information on some of their treasures. And then they get to take those graphics and information back to their own museums to help build up their own collection and have professionally created materials for them to showcase in their facilities. So we're busy. We have a lot of things going on. I would encourage you to come out and visit us if you haven't lately. We have Hot Fourth Friday coming up this Friday. We have Turning Gears as the band. We have Chef Around the Block doing the food pop-up. We also have a speaker series, I believe, this Fourth Friday. An author from Dundee Books. He owns Dundee Books over in Omaha. He's going to talk a little bit about his 3 or 4 books that he has as well. He's going to be in conversation with our artist, Jeff Turba. Next week, we have a Bob Dylan tribute in the theater. We have an open mic night. We, of course, have Saturday kids classes every single Saturday. So we have kids painting, pottery, and a maker's lab. Our next big show will be on Golden Pond in the theater in March. Any questions for me?
You got a lot happening.
We do. We're very busy. It's kind of amazing how much our small but mighty team produces. So, very proud of what we've been able to do. And I love that we're a cornerstone for the community.
Fourth Friday is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of
A
fun.
few times.
Yes. And so, I think it's the building itself, of course, is beautiful, but they be able to experience so much, be able to interact with the artists, go up to see the gallery, have some, and support the food entrepreneurs as they grow their businesses. It's a great experience.
Your food
Yes.
venue there, I think it's a great place,
Yes.
but it's not open all the time.
That is a conversation that needs to happen with the Kitchen Council. So Kitchen Council is the entrepreneurial food pop-up, and that's their business. We are supporting those entrepreneurs. PACE supports those entrepreneurs by giving them a platform to do those food
Okay,
pop-ups.
I know, I talked to Dr. Ted Hoff,
Oh, did you?
and he said that's one thing he would like to see happen
Mhm.
is your food venue be open
Right.
more.
And I think we would love to support them, but that's really not necessarily PACE's mission. That's Kitchen Council's mission. And so we would have to have a bigger conversation on what they would want to do to support those entrepreneurs.
Do you have any, wherewithal to do any outreach of using arts as therapy for, jail inmates or returning veterans? Because I know a lot of communities do have programs for veterans and might have PTSD, and whether it's writing or painting or pottery or something is, good for them.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful program. We have done a little discovery around that. Of course, with that, we would just need to find the right artist to be able to
Yeah.
implement those
I know.
programs.
That, because I sit on the Arts and Culture Commission there in NACO, and there was a gentleman who had been in prison who started was in the writer's workshop in prison and is now a writing and making a living doing it. So I think it's not only good therapy, it's probably good communication skills and whatever.
Yeah.
Some of these arts.
I think those are amazing programs, and I definitely think we should look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dana, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I appreciate,
Yep,
appreciate your
thanks.
support.
Presentation.
I like the way your outreach is to the county.
Yes.
for Arts and culture.
Yes, and we hope to continue to grow those relationships, you know, they love their collections, and so I'm glad that they're starting to open up to us to share some of their treasures with us.
Dana, one real quick question for you. What is teen pottery throwing?
Teen pottery throwing, so that's actually pottery plaques, so we actually have those wheels.
Nobody's throwing any.
Nobody's throwing, well, you throw your clay on the wheel. But yeah, no, it's pottery on the wheels.
Okay, that's
Yep,
all I need.
yep.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have discussion and or decision to authorize board chairperson to sign service agreement with Stellar Services LLC for the sheriff's office. And Steve, thanks for coming in. I asked this to be put on the agenda so that we could all review it. This is for the vending machines that's available at the jail for the residents there to.
So what, the old company just couldn't keep up or what?
We just had some issues. The customer process. They made some changes that wasn't a smooth transition. So we decided to start looking elsewhere. And we communicated that with them. They knew that there was some frustration and just got a better company and we'll get better service, but they increased our increase of 5% over the work getting. So I think it's a good fit for us.
What, Steve, I'm looking at that appendix 1. And this is a 5-year deal, right?
Yep.
It says, provide free with commissionary service, lockdown software.
Yep.
What is it?
That's what they call their system. It's called lockdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say what, and then, so cash transactions, is that through like an ATM or something?
Yeah.
And you guys are getting $4 for any transaction? And then what's the booking money manager?
So when folks come in, they get arrested. When they come in, they have money on them. It's where the money gets input.
Oh, okay. To set their bank?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's an IT component to all of this. Has David reviewed this with the,
Yep. Get in contact with them.
They settle up with you monthly then?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, one real quick question for you. Is there any expense to the county to run this? We don't spend any time.
You know, they provide the hardware, they provide the machines, they provide everything.
The accounting, the everything. So none of our people are sitting there taking care of any of this stuff. What's the revenue a year, Steve, get off the top of your head, you know?
I didn't ask them on my way out. I don't know exactly. I'm just, what I did ask is when I walked out, as I said, confirm, we're at 5%. She said, yes, we're doing 5% higher than the previous year.
Motion to authorize board chair to sign service agreement with Stellar Services LLC
I'll
for
second.
the sheriff's office.
I'll second that.
motion by Belt, a second by Shay. Is there additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Steve, thank you. Next up, discussion and or decision to approve service agreement with U.S. Department of Justice, United States Marshals Service Prisoner Operations. This really isn't a discussion, well, it's a discussion, but it's not a decision to approve. The sheriff's office has already entered into the agreement. This is just for board's review and if there's any questions.
Guess we just confirmed the agreement.
That's been a long, long road, hasn't it, Steve? Been very good, though.
Yeah, it went well.
I don't know, do you want a motion on that?
No, I don't think a motion's needed,
Yeah,
but
if you have to sign it, motion's needed.
I don't sign this one. There is
Well, I saw a spot for you to sign that, I thought.
no, the signature is between Steve Winchell and
Steve took over.
He's on the stuff.
Usually there would be a,
this is page 116 of the packet.
I'm looking at page 1 of
And the governance. The governance for this agreement will all be handled within the sheriff's office, and there's no responsibility of anybody else in the county.
Steve, how long is this?
That's for all 3 years. Most IGAs across the country. They're,
should we start working on the next 3 years?
I mean, probably. We'll start looking at
Next
the
week?
day, starting next year, and then start the discussion. I'm sure we'll start probably next year.
Our costs per day are going up every year.
I don't see it going down.
Didn't you say we're the highest in the state now?
Till the next contract.
Well,
It's, to me, it's not where, how much money we're getting. As long as it's more than what it costs, because the taxpayers are tired of paying for it.
I agree with that.
Thank you very much for coming in, Steve.
Thanks.
All right, next up, we have Becky Linehan, Finance and Tax Officer from the,
Okay. Excuse me, before you read all that, we're gonna scratch that bit.
oh, okay.
I checked with Department of Management and I think we have too many scheduled, so. we're gonna
Oh.
scratch them.
We have too many scheduled?
Too many meetings, the public hearing meetings on the proposed tax.
Trying to sort through all the new rules.
Yeah,
and
we're gonna push it up to March.
Okay, so that item has been scratched from the agenda.
Was this published then or not?
No.
It wasn't, okay.
Thank you, Becky.
Well, that was easy, Becky.
I know, right?
Next up, we have Jana Limerick, Director of Human Resources, and John Rasmussen, Operations Secondary Roads. Discussion and or decision on approval of job description and pay for bridge foreman.
Okay, the bridge foreman, I'll start, John. Okay. The bridge foreman, we are making it its own position and its own job description. It was in with the other foreman. So the bridge foreman was just with the other foreman, but we're pulling it out, making it its own. It will be a pay grade 215, or the foreman are a pay grade 217, but the bridge foreman will be a 215.
Didn't we do something last year with this the foreman?
So is there just one foreman?
Just one bridge foreman, yes.
Okay.
And it's vacant right now.
It's vacant right now, so every time we have a vacancy, we look at it, make sure it's serving us. That's a vacancy. And make some adjustments.
Are you advertising for that position?
Once you approve it today, we will post it, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Additional discussion.
Yeah, Jana, we are moving that from a 217 to a 215.
Right.
What's the pay scale for a 217?
$38.19 an hour to $45.39 an hour.
What is it for a 215?
$35.90 an hour to $42.68.
Why are we going down?
John, do you want to
we removed some responsibilities, so it was bridge and culvert, so we've moved those other two crews back to the foreman. We just changed the range of responsibility, I guess.
And I think too, after talking with Tina last week, that there's fewer people on the bridge crew, so fewer people to lead, where our other foremen are leading more people. So it is a different role.
Does a bridge foreman work on culverts too?
Not anymore.
Okay, so who's running a culvert team?
It's still the same Liebman. They had a crew before with, Liebman and a couple of members. And that went to the foreman we have now on the east and west side.
What is the pay grade for the culvert league?
It's top of your union scale. Well, not top of your union.
That's okay. I'll get it from Jen.
Yeah, it's a scale.
Is this the right thing to do, John?
Absolutely.
Did you move that, Brian?
Yes, I did.
And
Seconded by Jorgensen.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Scott, anything?
No.
Okay.
I just think I had my,
All right. So we have a motion by Shay, second by Jorgensen to approve the job description and pay for the bridge foreman. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jan.
Madam Chairman, Becky was there a motion on,
no, she
We
didn't.
just tabled it.
no, on item G?
No, there was no
You
motion. The
didn't do that
contract
with,
has already been signed.
Steve?
Right.
We just reviewed it.
Okay.
All right. Committee appointments. Anybody have anything they want to report from the last week or?
I was at the VA and then White had a meeting. Incapacitated.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
From last week, I can think of right now.
Okay, public comments.
But hold on,
Oh.
Supervisor Miller. If I can, on received and filed, I just like a clarification. Ms. Lemrick, there are, one, two, there are two, payroll status change forms that are dated back to 2021. What's the rationale on that?
So the rationale on that is, and I did also send you an email, I think it was on Friday, the rationale with that is that our union contract changed in 2021. Changing, shift differential to 90 cents. For whatever reason, these two individuals were never changed, they were left at 60 cents. So we're making that change today, backdating it to July 1st, 2021, as per the union contract. And payroll will be working on calculating back pay and getting that for those two.
I think she guessed it'd be about $2,000 per employee.
Possibly.
I think so.
How did
How much?
that mistake happen?
2,000.
That we can't figure out. That Linda was in her role at that time and would review union contracts and would review pay as well as payroll. Each July 1st, Human Resources reviews all of the July 1st pay changes, but we only review base pay. We don't review specialty pay, shift differential, that sort of thing. We likely will start, but so his base pay, their base pay has always been correct. It was that shift differential. That was 30 cents off.
Okay, so when we made the change in the union contract, was there a payroll status change for every employee that was affected?
Oh, that's a good question. That I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I mean, if there wasn't, why wasn't there? And if it wasn't required, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, this isn't the first time this has happened. And each time it costs the taxpayers money for every mistake we make. I just want to know where it was. Where was the mistake?
It cost them any more than- Still the same cost.
Well,
Coming out of 1 year, hurts us a little.
Oh.
well, no, the the fact of the matter is, we're a 450 employee organization with a $100 million budget. We can't have those mistakes happen. I just want to know where it happened.
How do we find those two?
So as we're going through all these pay increases this year, and because what's being proposed and yet for the board to vote on everything, right, what's being proposed is not the same percentage for every single person. To get it into the budget, what Becky asked me to do was to provide for those dollars. So I'm calculating for every single employee what their new annual pay will be, but she doesn't need base, she needs total annual pay. So I need to look at every single employee. Is there shift differential? Do they have the dollar maintenance jail? Do they have specialty pay? What else is included to have their total pay? And so I was going through each uniformed officer over at the jail and looking at their pay codes to calculate what is their total. And these two were left in a pay code that nobody else had. Then when Heather and I did the math, we found that they were 30 cents short in shift differential.
What's fair is fair.
Well, I agree with you, Brian. I don't have any issues making them,
But it needs to be,
but I want to know why it happened.
I agree. And it can come out of each budget year, and not be a big hunk of money.
All right,
Well, what if it was 40 people?
That'd be a lot.
No, I'm not being smart.
No,
Alex,
I'm serious. We need to find out, because, that would not be.
Jen, aren't these people aware on their own of what they should be getting paid and?
I mean, yes, but let's be honest, every employee does not look at their own paycheck and calculate it. And what I will also say that on their paychecks, it shows their total pay. It doesn't break it down into, so if someone makes $30 an hour, it doesn't break it down into $25 for a base, plus $1 for differential, plus this. It just shows the total. So if they're not taking the time to go in and calculate that, they could miss it as well, unless they thought it was supposed to be this way. But the union contract clearly changed in 2021. The 60 cents was gone, replaced with 90 cents. And everybody changed except these two.
Maybe they should be encouraged to take a look, you know?
We try to encourage employees to do that
Okay, all right.
too.
and were they members of the union during that time?
If they were dues paying members, I don't know. We don't get that information any longer since in 2020, chapter 20 changed it that we do not do payroll deduct for dues. So we don't know which members pay dues, but they were still receiving the benefits of the union. That I can say for certain.
Any others? All right, moving on to public comments. Did anybody sign up from the public?
No,
No?
I didn't see anybody. Nobody signed up on the list.
All right. With,
I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 20.17, parent 3, discussion, decision on labor negotiations, collective bargaining matters, and then I'll ask for a 5-minute break.
all right.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Wickman, second by Shay to go into closed session. Feldman, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah.
Chairman Miller,
Aye.
Supervisor Bell,
All right.
Whitman, Shay,
Hi.
and Jorgensen.
Aye.
All right. So we are going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.